Life's not that complicated. We've made it complicated, which gives us great excuses to mess up. And successful in any industry, learn how to communicate. I'll put money on 10 minutes after leaving the show, having laughed the whole way, you can't remember a proper joke. So this is now laughter and we can't remember. So now think about a serious subject. So I'll give you an example. Do this. Make a circle like this. Now put it to your chin. Brilliant. And you're going to be dentist. That's your chin. So from being this happy, clappy monkey, I turned into a hyena.
Right.
If you hold on to anger, you're one letter short of danger. Resentment's like taking poison and hoping the other person dies. It's a waste of time. You decide on a big goal and you hit the goal.
Yep.
2 words always
What's
come
next?
up. What's next?
Yeah.
So I was invited to do a podcast by a leading South African futurist. And we had this really embarrassing silence. Because this guy is a world-renowned futurist and he's brilliant. And today we're going to learn about the number one skill that leaders need to learn. And I think everyone needs to learn communication.
Now, this episode is a bit different. We're joined by Nigel Risner, international keynote speaker, world-class communication coach, and self-proclaimed chief zookeeper. He's coached the likes of Usain Bolt and top CEOs, and he's here to talk about his unique approach to teamwork, leadership, and communication, their relevance to us as dental professionals, and how all of human interaction can be summarised using animals. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Hello and welcome back to The Young Dentist. I'm Afif.
My name's Fahim, and today we've got Nigel Risner on. How are you?
I'm exceptional, and it's amazing you pronounced my name right. Well done. First podcast of 2024 that someone's pronounced my name right. Bit of research was done there.
I'm curious, how do they normally pronounce your name?
Risner, anything but Risner. And I didn't. So when I get introduced normally, I send them R-I-Z-N-E-R. And then there's a good chance they'll pronounce my name right.
Yeah.
And it's just the height. It's like, how can you not know? I've been introduced. I've said it 8,000 times. And people still go, Risner. Anything. Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It's been a pleasure. So Nigel, talk us through, you bring a Diet Coke. It's quite unconventional, we're on a dentistry podcast. What's the reason behind that?
Well, not only did I bring a Diet Coke, but you had a Diet Coke here. And you probably realised from hearing one of my speeches before, whether it was online or another podcast, that if you want to impress people, the best way to impress people is to make sure you know their personal needs. And I have 2 big personal needs. One is Diet Coke. Do you remember what the other one is?
Cadbury's chocolate.
Cadbury's chocolate.
You gotta eat some.
But what's really interesting, it's not about necessarily the Diet Coke and Cadbury's chocolate. It's whether you've listened and they know what I like. Because when people get what they like and they feel appreciated and they feel loved and supported, then they relax. If there'd have been a glass or a bottle of champagne to thank me, which, by the way, there should have been, but that's separate. But if there'd have been champagne here, I don't drink. So you'd have wasted a lot of money. That's the standard gift that people give you, or whatever it might be. I make it really simple for people. Give people what they want, and you'll be amazed at the results. And it's no different with kids, adults, and adults are the same as kids. We just have better excuses. But just make life simple for patients, for parents, for students, for kids. Give them what they want. You'll be surprised the results you get.
Yeah, 100%. And I think from listening to some of your stuff in the past, I know our audience might not be familiar with you. Quite a key component of what you preach is making psychology and making communication and business simple to that level. Could you kind of go into more to do with that?
I love that you just said it. You see, when you kind of smiled, and so whether the camera picks that up and people actually understand, you kind of smiled when you said the word simple. You see, life's not that complicated. We've made it complicated, which gives us great excuses to mess up. I need to swallow that. To mess up.
You can swear if you like.
No, try not to. I'm allowed 2 Fs apparently, but I'll hold back for the moment. When people go to school, they want to be treated nicely and they want to be taught in a style that suits them. We'll come on to that a bit later on, but they're not. Then they want to find a partner who understands if you understand love languages. We'll come on to that in a minute. But they want to be appreciated in their style, not the style necessarily of the person who's giving out the love. When we go to work, we want to be appreciated and spoken to in our style, not their style. So I've tried to break everything down to simple levels that an 8-year-old would understand. Now, can you imagine if you went to school, to senior school, and as an 8-year-old, would you understand where your next class was? Would you understand the tutorial? Would you understand the diary system? And would you understand a homework schedule?
No.
Did you say yes?
Yes.
Okay, see, there's always one bright kid here, okay? But you're the exception.
All right.
Because you might. But the other 90% of us would have not a clue. So everything that I do is I visualise an 8-year-old in my audience think, are they going to be able to hear it, understand it, teach it to someone else? Because the best way to learn anything is to teach it to someone else. Have you ever been to a conference?
Yes.
Have you ever been to a lecture?
Yeah.
I'll put money on within 35 minutes you'll have got most of it.
Yeah. For
So then what you do is you write loads of notes down, then you put the notes on the shelves, and we call that shelf development. So that doesn't work. The only way you're going to remember it, let's go a different style, because there's a few of us in this room right now. Have you ever seen a comedian live?
no.
No.
Have you ever seen a comedian live, young man?
I have, yeah.
I'll put money on 10 minutes after leaving the show, having laughed the whole way, you can't remember a proper joke.
Sure.
So this is now laughter, and we can't remember. So now think about a serious subject, and we can't remember. Unless you're taught it, and you practice it, and you remember it, and you see it a minimum of 6 times, you're not going to remember.
6 times.
6 times. I'll give you an example. What's one of your favourite films?
Inception.
Inception. Yours?
Avengers Infinity Game.
How many times have you seen it?
Or twice.
Okay. If you saw the film 6 times, you'd never forget it. There are people who've seen episodes of Franks hundreds of times. They've seen White Christmas. You're too young for that. But there's loads of films they would have seen, The Great Escape, whatever it might be, more than 3, 4, 5 times. And they literally know which actor's going to walk in, what they're going to say. But you love the film. You've seen it twice. I'll put money on you get 90% of the script wrong. Now, that's a script that you enjoy. Now think about a lecture.
That's very true.
So you've got to break it down. Now, the lecturer is sharing information that he has learned over the last 20, 30 years, thinking that's what you need to hear. And I'm not disputing that's knowledge. The problem is, scientifically, we know that it goes in one ear, literally goes out the other. Unless you've got a chance to practice it, feel it, experience it. So a lot of the work that I do is experiential. So I'll give you an example. Do this. Make yourself like this. Now put it to your chin. Brilliant. You're going to be dentist. That's your chin. I don't know if is this being videoed as well?
It is, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So you would have just seen, you saw it, and you're doing medical science. And I reckon you know where your chin's are. What did you do?
Yeah,
You just modelled my behaviour.
Yeah.
And that's what we do a lot in the world. We watch what people are doing. We're not listening to what they're saying. So if you want to make your life easier, watch successful people model their behaviour. And successful in any industry, learn how to communicate. So I was invited to do a podcast by a leading South African futurist. And he introduced me and he said, Nigel's going to share one of the most important factors in leadership, which is communication. And I stopped the podcast there and said, if you think it's one of the most important concepts of leadership, tell me something that's more important than communication. And we had this really embarrassing silence because this guy is a world-renowned futurist and he's brilliant. And he went, I think we're going to start this again. And today we're going to learn about the number one skill that leaders need to learn. And I think everyone needs to learn communication. So I wrote a very simple book on communication. And when I wrote the book, I wrote it in 4 languages. So for the simpletons like me, I left school before I was 16 with only one O level and 1 GCSE, and that was on a remark.
Yeah.
So there are some people who did it really simple. Then we wrote the next part for the principles of surgeries. Short, sharp, to the point, no messing about, no humour, but just to the point because they like it straight. Then we wrote it for the deep people like you guys who are deep thinkers and you want the experience and you want the knowledge and you want the reference. You love a reference, don't you? Nothing makes you happier than a reference and a portfolio and an agenda and a Wikipedia reference. So we wrote a whole chapter and at the end we've got graphs for you because you love a graph.
Oh, I love a good graph, yeah.
Love a graph. And then we wrote another section just for the softer, gentler people and we did it on recycled paper. So I wrote a book in 4 languages.
Oh, wow.
And the reason I did that is because you may have heard of a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yes.
Are you aware that about 2% of the world have ever finished it?
No.
It's one of the biggest selling books in the world, and about 2% have ever read it. Have you read Who Moved My Cheese?
No.
Okay, so Spencer Johnson wrote a book called Who Moved My Cheese? It's about 4 rats. It's only about 60 pages. Everyone's read it.
Ah.
So simplicity is about making sure that people read it, digest it, and understand it.
Gotcha.
Stephen Covey's book is phenomenal. I met Stephen before he died. Brilliant guy. And what most people do, I heard his tape, because he came from Utah. I heard his tape. And he has a drawl. And they all listen to it in their car, which is called Auto University. So in my generation, we used to listen to loads of sales tapes in the car.
Oh, really?
I love that look. Like, you drove. Yes, we had a man with the red flag in front. But we listened to audio a lot.
Okay.
And that's how we learned lots of our stuff. We didn't read because we heard. Now you've got podcasts and you've got white papers and then you've got, Twitter and X and everything else. And people are reading very quick information. But I promise you now, when you listen to something, repeat it and teach it to others, you never forget. Long answer to your question, Billy.
Now, before we continue, I want to take a minute to thank our sponsor, Colgate, for making this podcast possible. Colgate is on a mission to support the next generation of dental professionals as they transition from dental school to practice. And they aim to do this through the Colgate Student app. Now, the Colgate Student app is a completely free to use one-stop shop for all dental student education. It contains bite-sized educational content and clips to teach you the skills that you might not have learned in dental school, but that you'll need in real-life practice. The app contains 4 main sections: clinical practice, practice management, having fun, and doing good. It's super easy to use and has something for everyone, no matter which stage in your journey you're at. Now, students and young dentists ask me all the time, Fahim, how do you know what events are happening next? Well, within the student app, there's a specific events section containing exclusive student events, both in person and online, across the country, so you can network your way into those amazing opportunities. All of the content in the app is created by credible sources from across the globe, including the UK's very own University of Manchester, ensuring you have access to world-class support throughout your journey as a young dental professional. Click the link in the description to download the Colgate Student app today. And now, back to the episode. I mean, you touched on multiple things there, and all of them kind of have some sort of underlying theme of tailoring communication to not only yourself when you're taking in information, but also when you're relaying it to others. In your experience, kind of going all over the world coaching, how important do you think that has been to helping people retain the information and then also going and implementing it?
So I've spoken in, I think, 65 different countries, a lot in English, but I've done a number where it's been instant translation. So I've been speaking knowing it's being translated in a third language. So I've spoken in Iran, I've spoken in Israel, I've spoken in Belgium, Italy. France is the worst because apparently nobody speaks English in France. So if you're French, listen to this, you won't understand what I've just said there. Or you'll pretend you don't, but think you do. But when you're communicating, you've got to think, how is the person taking on your information? So you and I communicate in a very different way. You are massively left-brained. You like detail, don't you? I want no detail at all. I just said, even when you give me the instructions, you wanted me to meet you at the station, then you were going to walk me over and meet in a restaurant and come along these roads. I said, just give me the address. I'll find it. I'm clever enough for that. And the number was 101. I reckon I'll find it. And you know what? Outside, it's got big letters. Yeah. I was clever enough for that. But for you, you didn't trust that. So you gave me the graphs and you could meet me and here's a map and everything else. Because that's the way you take information. I just need a number. Give me a number. 101, I'll find it. But that's about trust, because you don't always trust.
That's right.
I trust everyone until they let me down. And you don't trust anyone until they prove themselves. Yeah. So we already have 2 problems in communication. But I know that everything I share is going to go in your head, and then you're going to store it to get a reference, and then you're going to go online to see if I'm correct. Whereas everything you say to me, I'm just going to take on face value. I'm going to get let down, by the way, 2% of the time. But I'm going to have a lot more fun than you will.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
Not fair enough, that's the truth.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm sharing that is that the quicker you can profile somebody, the quicker your life will change. The reason why divorce is so high is we haven't profiled our partners. The reason why people leave their jobs so quickly is we haven't profiled the person coming in. Are you aware 11% of people join a firm and within 2 weeks they leave? Wow. They spend all this time to employ someone and they've got it wrong. Percentage of marriages now, any idea? Divorce rates?
20%? 40%?
Keep going. Any idea?
It's like
It's 52%. I mean, yeah, but just think about this, though. You've earned all of this money and then you're going to give at least half it away, normally because you're mentally not capable of looking after your partner, or a sexual issue, but we'll come on to that later. No, because there's a reason why. It's that we're not getting our needs met. So communication is key, but we're good at listening, and we're not very good at listening.
Gotcha. You mentioned something very interesting there, Nigel, active listening right here, which is, you mentioned profiling, right, and how you can understand which each person is. So talk to us a bit more about, your role as a zookeeper and what each profile means to you and how you can identify that.
So there are hundreds of systems out there, whether it's Myers-Briggs, Belbin, DISC, Insight, Colours. There's brilliant systems. I've tried to really simplify everything to say that everyone's one of four animals. So I'm a classic monkey. I've got no boundaries. I sometimes cross the line terribly. I don't do enough research. I don't do detail. I turn up. I've got a memory stick, and that's what I do. I travel the world with one memory stick and an iPhone.
Cool.
And amazing, I get by. Then there are people like you, my friend, who are classic elephants. And you are detailed. You are analytical. You don't trust the process. You want information. You want information overload. And nothing excites you more than a PDF document. That's exciting for you. Then we've got my friend over here who's videoing for him with probably a bit of a line. Let's get it done. I've got the system ready. He's direct to the point. No messing about. He hasn't got time for any messing around. And I think you're a bit of a dolphin because you're caring and nurturing and you want to make sure the world is right. Now, if you think this room possibly has got four different animals, we've all got different styles and we listen differently. One of us has got to change their communication style. Because if I just become what I do my classic monkey style, I'll be effing and blinding, I'll be swearing, I won't listen to the questions, and I'll just be talking bullshit. If you're doing it, the questions will be very detailed. I won't have an understanding of what you're talking about, but they'll be clever questions. If you're doing it, my friend, there'll be lovely questions. And your head tilts, and you'll, oh, I love that. So you just do it, oh, that's lovely. And if our friend, our sound guy, is doing it, they'll be direct to the point, too fast, and he's not going to listen to the answers because it's all about him. Okay? But that's okay. So one of us has got... Have you ever played squash, by the way?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The person who wins in squash stands where?
In the middle.
In the middle. So if you looked at a grid of four animals, or you look at a grid of anything, the guy who holds the guy, the person who's in the middle, is what I call the effective zookeeper. And the zookeeper's role is to understand the needs of the different animals. So you need information, you need care, you need quickness, and I need some fun. What happens though, we go into a lecture hall and we're sat, in the auditorium, and I can't move very far because I'm trapped in the seat, can't mess about, and the lights are dark, and we're all focused on the tutor. And I get bored really quickly. So within 20 minutes, I'm nudging you and I'm wrestling some sweets. I've got to have a Diet Coke and it's going to be really noisy. You would have prepared for the lesson already and you're now getting annoyed with me. You're going to ask some really questions like, when's the break? Is there a break soon? Okay. And all that's fine, but the game is to understand the needs of the people you're talking to. So I know that you're going to want information. So I'm going to give you some references. If you go back to Myers-Briggs, you go back to Belbin, and then you go back to Socrates, 532. He was one who originally came out with bloodlines and how blood flows through the body. So there's different styles. So it's not you. The problem is we've made it complicated. So when you can understand that everyone has a different style, and if you ask really good questions and you listen, you'll find out the answer. So if I asked you, do you ever go to the hairdressers?
Yep.
Do you make an appointment?
No.
You just pop in?
Yes.
Okay, so that's quite random for your style. Do you go to the hairdressers? Yep. Do you have an appointment?
Yeah, every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks, okay. Do you go to the hairdressers? I do, yeah. And you got your own hairdresser, haven't you? You only go to him, don't you? Yeah. There you go. Me, I can't, whenever somebody rings me and says, you haven't been for 3 months ago, haven't I? And then I turn up. And then I might be 5 minutes early or 5 minutes late, which is a bit like today. Even if I asked you about your hairstyles, I'm really trying to engage in the way you answer the question. If I asked you where you're going on holiday, and I listen. So for someone like me, I've been to the wrong island in Hawaii. Who knew there were islands? I went to Hawaii, got to the wrong place. I've run on the wrong day. I've literally just come out from Greece. I told the hotel I was leaving on the 3rd. Who knew I was leaving on the 4th? The hotel then had to find me a room. But that's classic monkey behaviour. So the hotel in advance knows that's what I'm like. I've been to the same hotel for 12 years. They know I'm a bit daft. They check my passport, then they ask, can I see my air ticket? Because it doesn't matter what I've told them, they want to check. Because I've got it wrong. Whereas for someone like you, you've got the schedule, you've got a folder.
Itinerary, yeah.
Of course you have. Because that's classic behaviour. You've got one for the family, my brothers and sisters. I've got it for everyone. And you only go first class. That's just the way it is. But when you just look around, the more you ask the right questions and you listen, there'll be really good indications. So when you see a comedian come onto stage and he'll normally go, hello, London, he'll wait to see the response. Because if there's a big cheer, he knows the type of crowd they are. And if there were 400 of you, oh, that's very nice, thank you, he knows we're in London. Because you're not going to cheer back in the same way.
Yeah, good point.
So 400 of you compared to 400 of me will be a different response.
Yeah.
And he'll change virtually their set. Now, do you know that comedians, before they go on their main tour, do loads of little tours in local theatres?
All right.
So someone like Michael McIntyre, or maybe another famous comedian, he won't have just appeared at the London Palladium. He will have, so I did a speech not long ago in a place called St Asaph in North Wales.
Okay.
And on the floor were the notes of his notes were on there,
Okay.
and what he was finding out was whether his jokes landed from a parochial point of view, from a country point of view. So this is North Wales. It's going to be a very different audience to North Devon, or to London or Norwich. So even comedians change some of their script. So they don't just turn up and do 40 minutes. They have rehearsed thousands of times. It's very rare that a comedian does a one-off line. You think it is, but then we think that's how clever they are. Sorry, long answer.
Yeah. So on the flip side then, what's the consequence of not doing that? I mean, you probably come across many executives out there who are kind of quite hard-headed in that regard. What's the consequence of not adapting to your team's personality archetypes and stuff?
Okay, so let's go dental for a second,
Yeah.
okay? So you have a principal dentist who's been running his practice for 30 years. Obviously, he knows the world. He's been running it for 30 years. I've been doing it this way, and I'm very successful.
Yep.
And this new upstart like you two have done your dental, you've done your A-levels, you've done 3 years at university, you're now doing 3 years maybe in-house, and you've got a new way of doing amalgam. Oh, have you? Well, I learnt it last week. I think we should try it. Oh, should we? And the classic principal dentist is a lion. It's not going to change it for you. You know absolutely nothing. And he's not going to listen to any suggestions. Someone like me, if you've got a better way of doing it, and I've got to do it, and it's going to save me time, let's go for it. That may not be right either. But if it was an elephant dentist, I'd like to see the preparation. I'd like to see how it works. Have you got a dummy? Have you got a video how it works? I'd like to see how it comes from. It may take months before we actually try on a patient. And then the dolphin leader, who's much more caring, we better be very careful. Don't see a suit. Well, maybe we'll try it on you, see if it works. It's not complicated, but what happens is when people go rogue, and I sometimes do, my animal style changes. So from being this happy, clappy monkey, I turn into a hyena.
Right.
If you understand about the world of animals, hyenas have the worst bite, vicious, nasty. And if I'm at an airport, and I'm at an airport a lot, and my seat gets moved from what I've originally booked, I can feel myself going from excited monkey, and I know I'm going to turn. And sometimes it's too late, and I can't stop myself.
Yeah, gotcha.
So all the animals have a secondary animal. And the game is to make sure, as a zookeeper, you're tapping in and watching. So I'm closely watching your eyes. And when I feel I've really upset you, I need to, one, acknowledge it, apologise, find out what's going on. Because if you turn, it's going to be chaos. And that's what zoos are about. Zoos are about maintaining the equilibrium of the animals. Do you know much about cheetahs?
Yeah, they're very fast.
Okay, have you ever seen the cheetah in a zoo?
No.
Yes. I have,
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you see the movie much?
Yes, they were running after some bobbin.
Okay, that's the only reason. But traditionally, cheetahs don't do much in zoos because they only use their energy for food.
Yeah, okay.
So if they're fed every single day, why do I need to run? So if you don't, so when you go into the wild and cheetahs don't move that much, but when they do, it's unbelievable to watch. I was in Kenya a couple of months ago, and we saw a cheetah kill. it is so exhilarating. When it came through our trucks, literally,
Wow.
I mean, literally millimetres from the side of our wheel. And the speed is unbelievable. And it doesn't move for the next 5 hours. So in a zoo, when it's fed, it doesn't have any needs. So it doesn't move very much.
So, I mean, you touched on there the importance of kind of personal needs, right? I mean, there's all these different avenues of life and areas of life that personal needs are relevant to. You mentioned love life before.
I said love languages.
Love language, yes. I mean, I think I
Not
would
love life. I mean, that's a whole different podcast quickly. That may not be for this episode. But, so for example, I've been married 39 years. Happily 4, but I've been married 39 years. And I'm married to a therapist.
Right.
And her love language is acts of service. So she wants me to do things. My love language is touch. So I need her to hold my hand and just make sure I'm around. And her just putting her hand on my shoulder just lets me know she still loves me.
Yeah.
Me putting my hand on her shoulder saying, I love you lots, is not necessarily going to work. She wants to see me actually performing a duty. So Mondays is classic. So it's a Monday we're recording today. The bin men come. So I think that's what you've got to do Sunday nights. Anyone know what you've got to do Sunday nights?
The binner.
Take the bins out. And my wife does this to me. Amazing job. Amazing job. And touches my arm and says, love you. I think that's what you've got to do Monday night.
The binner.
Put them back in.
All right. I'm wondering that today.
Yeah, very good. You went very deep there. You started going to thought process. But you got to bring them back in. And so if I don't, I've not served her needs. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So some people want gifts, some people want touch, some people want acts of service. It's a great book to read, The 5 Love Languages. And it's just about appreciating what people want, which is an extension of what I talk about personal needs. So when young dentists go for a job interview, very often they're so delighted to have been interviewed that they forget about their own personal needs. So I'll give you an example. Do you play for any sports?
Yeah, squash actually.
Okay. Imagine there was a squash match at 4:30 next Thursday, and it's a league match, and you've done really well in the league, but it's at 4:30. How do you think your dentist would feel if you said, I need to leave about 4?
Yeah, it won't be happy because, of course, patients and stuff, right?
I know, but if it's one of your personal needs, and I know it's one of your personal needs, and I'm checking in with you about your squash career, and I said to you, next Thursday, we'll cover it. If you want to leave at 4, that would be fine. How would you feel?
Be very grateful, of course, right?
But you'd also feel listened to, nurtured, appreciated, loved, and all the rest of the stuff. The problem is, imagine I said to you at 4:29, really sorry, I've just had to put an extra patient in. See, you do it, but resentment would build in.
Yeah.
And then the following Wednesday, the same thing happens again. And then we've got a staff meeting next Wednesday. We're doing an away day Wednesday about 4:30. See, what do I know? I had a PA for 30 years. And when she first started me, she had 2 kids in school. And at 4:45, I know she needed to leave to go to the bus stop, meet her kids, give them a Milky Way and a Ribena. And for about 10 minutes, she loved them. 10 minutes later, she wanted to slurp them to pieces because they were being naughty. Yeah. But if I hadn't said, no, you can't go then, she wouldn't be, if you may have heard the other phrase I use a lot, which is about being in the room.
Yes, there.
So I want people to understand that right now, the only people I love in the whole, do you know who I love in the whole wide world right now? The 3 of you.
Yeah.
Sad that that's my life. But the 3 of you are the most important people in my life because you're here. And in my home right now, I've got 2 grandchildren and my wife, but I'm not there. So focusing on them is a waste of energy. Does that make sense? So imagine that my PA is working with me and she knows her kids are coming off the bus and they've got to cross quite a main road. Do you reckon at probably 3:30, she's stopped thinking about my work? She's thinking about the kids. Are they going to cross the road? Are they going to have a drink? Are they going to get a treat? And then when they come in the house at 4:00, she then might be able to breathe. I can stop all that. Let her go 2 minutes before. It's literally 1 minute to the bus stop. She can see the kids come off the coach. She can bring them in, give them a drink, and then 10 minutes later, she's back at work.
Yeah.
The idea that you're like this statistic, 50% of the staff are not in the workplace 50% of the time.
All right.
Their minds are elsewhere. And the biggest problem is this thing. Have you ever been talking to somebody and you're holding your phone?
No, I make sure I put it in my pocket.
When every single day,
Pretty much all the time, yeah.
Okay, so we've got an exception to the rule. We have a classic elephant, but you've done it, haven't you?
Yes.
Have you done it, sir?
Haven't they?
So I'll give you an example. Just start talking to me about anything.
Yeah, sure. How was your day, Nigel? How do you think?
Just 1 sec. Oh, no, that's okay. But how would you feel if I did that?
Wouldn't feel hurt.
Yeah, but even though I've said, no, it's okay, it doesn't matter. What I'm really saying to you is, you're lucky this isn't important. Because if this was important, I'd have taken it. Now, I don't want to get into tragedy and sadness. My dad died about 3 months ago, but literally the day before he died, I was doing a presentation, and I said to the audience, I'd like to keep my phone on just in case the hospital call. So I shared with the staff, I shared with my conference that my dad was very ill, would they mind? And halfway through, I could see it was Edgware Hospital. I put it on a loudspeaker, so everyone knew I was, and he was literally on the way out. Would I be home soon? Now, I was in Glasgow, so there was not a chance. And I was flying with British Airways, so there's no chance for you with British Airways you're going to be on time. Yeah. But my audience understood, and I had permission from them. And then 2 minutes later, they said, do you need to leave? I said, no, it's fine. But I got permission. But if I'd have done this, oh, I'm sorry, oh, no, it's fine, you'd feel really bad. So we teach people that when you're in the room, be in the room, but you can only be in the room about 40 minutes. How long's the average school lesson?
An hour 10.
Sorry, which school have you been to? Most lessons are 40 minutes.
All right.
All right.
What school did you go to?
I was thinking about university lectures.
Okay, the school. Yeah. The school lessons. Do you know how long the average TV programme is on Channel 4 ITV? 40 odd minutes. Between the. So most people can concentrate in the mornings for about 40 minutes. Okay. So I do breaks when I speak every 42 minutes. Now, if you said to me, look, we've got to finish this interview at 11:55, so I've got a really important phone call to make, I said, well, let's cut it at 11:45, make the phone call, and then come back. Because at 11:45, you're going to start doing what I call the bum shuffle. You love to see that, when people start getting... Yeah, people start getting ready, they start putting their shirts on because they want to leave. So I ask people a lot, is there anything stopping you from being in the room? When you progress to the next level and you go for your interview with a dental practice or you're going in front of a committee, you really want to be asking them, is everything okay for you guys for me to be in this room? Does anyone need to do anything? Because I really want your full attention and I want to give you my full attention. But the idea of going into a meeting, knowing you've got somewhere else to be, and I used to do it in the past. So I've had a brain aneurysm. And one of the reasons I've had a brain aneurysm is that I used to speak somewhere knowing there was a motorbike waiting outside to take me to the next gig. So I was in Prague in the morning and I had a speech in the afternoon in Copenhagen. I want you to visualise me. I've done a massive speech in Prague to 200 people. I've then got a taxi to the airport. I get to the airport in Prague. My flight's delayed. And I'm going to land at 10 to 4 and I'm speaking at 4. Now, think about the mental stress. Yeah. I then tell the audience, the organisers, do a tea break at 4, and I should be there. Okay. I have another motorbike pick me up from Copenhagen Airport. There's such thing as a motorbike taxi. I don't know if you've ever seen Virgin Limo bikes. I'm good at this. Literally, just hop on a motorbike and get there. Okay. But my mental state and how I'm feeling, because the whole time I was finishing the last speech thinking, please don't ask me any questions.
Yeah,
so I normally finish my speech, and just for the record, I never take questions after I've spoken.
All right.
Only during.
Sorry?
Only during?
Yeah, and do you know why I do that?
To make sure on time?
That's not really the reason, but it's a good answer. Well remembered, though. Any idea why?
Keep them engaged.
Because I want me to be the last thing they've heard, not some ridiculous question. Because you normally get... Yeah, I'm going to interview for a dental practice. They want me to work on a Sunday. I don't really want to. What shall I do? And so I've done this massive motivational session, and that's the last question. So occasionally I'll ask the audience, are there any questions you want to ask so I can finish them so they're engaged with the speech? Whether you remember who John Grisham is, but you want to make sure that when you speak, you leave them wanting more. So when you do an interview, you want to share your brilliance, but you should leave them thinking, I need to ask you one more question.
All right.
Let them... See, if you give them too much information too quickly, they're going to get bamboozled. but the first 2 or 3 minutes are going to be phenomenal. So let's just imagine we were doing an interview now, and I said to you, before we start, I'd like to know, do you have good podcast facilities? Is the room soundproofed? Obviously, we wouldn't be here unless it was. Obviously, you've done a few of these before. So I've walked in and we've gone straight into it. But too often, people ask the wrong questions in the beginning. Then worse is we start doing judgment. And then what's even worse, we don't answer the question. So if you really want to be phenomenal, there's a lovely line that says it's much better prepared and not have the opportunity than have the opportunity and not be prepared. So I'm always prepared. I've always got a couple of my books with me. Even when I sit on a plane, the poor sod who has to sit next to me for an 8-hour journey, I normally give him one of my books just because I talk too much.
Right.
But you've got to recognise that being in the room and being present is key. And how many times do you think you leave the room?
At certain points. So it's for me, for example, it depends. When I'm speaking to someone in a conversation, sometimes you catch yourself drifting and then you have to pull yourself back. So what would you say to remedy that?
So I've got a little post-it note on your head that says, please love me. I've got a visualization just under your forehead that says, please love me. And notice I'm giving you great eye contact. And occasionally, I move over there. But what I'm saying is, but I love this room because I've got no distractions. There's nothing worse than being on a ground floor when there's people walking by.
Because you get distracted.
Yeah, and we all get distracted. Have you ever been to a football match?
Yeah.
The worst thing I think when people go from is they're videoing the football match they're watching. They're there watching live.
Yes.
You know, you go to a concert and people are recording.
Yeah.
Just be there. And there's enough artists who say we'd like you to be present. Now, if you want to go really a bit sickly here, I tell people kids want presents more than presents. Kids spell the word love, T-I-M-E. I knew you'd like that one. You're still working there right now, 20. But what I'm trying to say is people actually want presents. And when you're in an interview or when you're engaging with someone and you can show that person you care, life works. When you start understanding their love languages, life works. When you understand their communication style, life works. Notice that we haven't started talking about exams and I'm assuming you qualified. Why wouldn't I? I think the podcast would be amazing. But if you come from a position where I'd like to where it's going, who's going to listen to it? You ask all these, what you're really saying is, I don't trust you. So can we deal with trust for a second?
Yes.
I trust everyone until they let me down. And life really works for people. The tragedy is we sometimes don't trust people because we've been let down in the past. So now we're not present because we're worried about what might happen. Imagine you could let go of all of your past experiences and you just could be present.
How would you, because you've dealt with people with this issue in the past where, okay, they're in that state and they find it hard to trust people. And especially in sales as well. I've got a mentor and he's quite heavily into sales, and he says the same thing. It's about coaching people out of that fear mindset and into the open-minded mindset. So what advice would you give to students, to professionals, to open their mind, to allow them to do exactly what you said, to trust more until someone lets you down?
Okay. You can't forget past stories, but you can forgive past stories. So one of the things that I teach a lot is about forgiveness in the workplace. You will be let down in your next 60 years, because you're young enough, you're going to be working a lot longer than I am. In your next 50 years of work, a patient's going to turn up late. Someone's not going to give you the right money. You might even get screwed financially. Someone's going to join the opposition, whatever. If you hold on to anger, you're one letter short of danger. And I'm telling you now, forgiveness is the way forward. When you get angry, I'll give you a better thing. Have you ever had resentment issues? Ever been resentful of somebody?
Not really.
Okay, great quote. Resentment's like taking poison and hoping the other person dies. It's a waste of time. You can't change past performance. You can't change past behaviour. Have you ever messed up in the past? Ever?
Yeah, yes.
I presume you wish you hadn't.
Yeah.
But the whole time you're focusing on what you didn't do, you're not focusing on what you can do. And I always share with people, are you driving yet?
Yep.
Yes.
Have you ever noticed your front windscreen's bigger than your rear windscreen? Yeah. Any idea why?
Because you're looking forward most of the time.
Yeah. But if you want to experience what holding on to anger looks like, reverse home. It's hard work to reverse. Now, you guys are a bit luckier. I don't know how old you are, young man. Okay, so you've still got it. But in the old days, we didn't have a reversing camera. You literally had to turn over your shoulder for like 100 yards and see where you were going. Try doing it for 300-400 yards. Because that's what life looks like when you're holding on to the past. Decide what it is that you want to be, and 1 year from now, your wish is started today. Make a decision right now. What do I want to accomplish? Who do I need to surround myself with? Who should I be listening to? And model off the very best.
But you mentioned there, Nigel, how you should plan accordingly and set very good goals, right? So where's the balance between planning too far in advance and being flexible?
There's a problem with goal setting, which I'm going to upset everyone with. If you set a goal and you hit your goal, do you know 2 words always come up? Anyone know what they are? Anyone?
How long?
You decide on a big goal and you hit the goal.
Yep.
2 words always.
What's next?
What's next? So it doesn't matter how well you've done. We're going to do our GCSEs, and you get 11.
Yeah.
What next? Well, better get A levels. So you get your 4 A levels. Or what next? Well, you're getting into university, and then you get a 2-1 and you get an honours. Oh, what's next? Well, we're going to go for a job, and we get our job. Oh, what's next? We want to get a promotion. Or what's next? And then you get a pay rise, and within 6 weeks you go, what's next? And you spend your whole life on what's next. Very few people are happy with what they've got. So in my humble opinion, just mine, goals is one thing, having a vision is something else, and having a mission statement is something else. So I have goals. I wanted to write some books. We wanted to sell some books. I have a vision that one of my books we wanted to get out translated to 20 languages and sell 1 million copies. Now, a vision has to be massive, but you can achieve it in your lifetime. So we've sold probably 300,000-400,000 books. It's in 12 languages. It's in Arabic. It's in Chinese. It's in South Korean, Romanian, English, India. My face is a bit dark on the cover, which is a bit bizarre, but let's not even go there. It's in Canada, Australia, America. So we're en route.
Yep.
But if you really want to be a success, you have to have a personal mission statement. And a personal mission statement has to be so huge you can never get there, but moment by moment you're working towards it. So my mission statement is to inspire and empower people and their organisations to live their life to the fullest. So do you think I'm fulfilling my mission by doing this podcast today? Do you think I'm inspiring and empowering people?
Yeah, I feel 100%.
So is this the right place to be?
Yeah.
If this was an after dinner podcast for me to get gigs, do you think this would be the right place for me to be?
No.
I don't do after dinner. And the reason I don't do after dinner is they don't want inspiration and empowerment. So if you really want to be successful, you need to have some short-term goals. You need to have some massive goals, which are called BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals, which you don't quite know how you're going to get them, which is going to be a stretch for you, my friend. Because you've got to have some massive goals, which are possible in your lifetime. You don't understand how. But really important for young people to make a decision that just having short-term goals, because, I come from a certain background, you come from a certain ethnicity, and your parents want you to do really well, and you've got to do your O-levels. And the second of your O-levels, what's the first thing they said?
Better get to university.
Better go to university.
Yeah.
And then you come out of university, what's the first thing they say? Get a job.
Yeah.
And then you get your good job, what's the first thing they say?
You get promoted,
Yes,
family.
when are you getting married?
Yeah.
I didn't even marry him. When are you having children?
Yeah.
You can't even enjoy the process because all the time there's another goal because that's what they used to do. A mission statement allows you to have more fun. Because everything that I do is about inspiring and empowering. And that's whether it's my kids, whether I'm in the car. Have you ever driven the car and someone cuts you up?
Yeah.
Middle finger job is normally the answer. That's not inspiring and empowering people. So when my life works, I'm doing my mission statement. And when my life isn't working, it's probably because I'm not in integrity. So here are 3 quick lessons. Be in the room. Be in integrity. Communicate like a zookeeper. And have lots of fun.
Brilliant. Awesome stuff. And on that note, guys, I think we should draw this episode to a close. So thank you very much for listening and thank you for being here, Nigel.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll see you guys next time.